Dolphins, you are now watching and listening to the Big Fish Network, home for Miami Dolphin fans worldwide. And as you know, I'm your boy Dave Wave, back on time with another video. And this is another episode of 3 Dubs, a segment that's a part of TBFN where I'll be answering 3 questions: what they're saying, what I saw, and what I think is a fan. And I'm going to try to release at least one 3 Dubs video a week for y'all. That way y'all get the preview, y'all get the recap, and y'all get this. And I'm going to have fun with it. You know, we're going to start this thing off by talking more about the loss to the Bills and what we may need to do against the New York Giants when they come to Hard Rock Stadium. Now, I watched the media avails from Coach McDaniel, from Tua, from Jalen Waddle, Jerome Baker, and a few other players. And a lot of them, the operative word that they used for this loss is humbling. It was a humbling experience, and that's on both sides of the ball. I told y'all in the recap that I think there's some changes that need to be made, not only in our scheme on offense and defense, but also maybe little tweaks to our roster. I think that we should make Devon Achane the starting kick returner and punt returner so that Berrios could save his energy for running routes as a number 3 receiver. And Chosen, I think he should be the 4th receiver until River Craycraft returns. Because Craycraft is on IR right now, so that's why we haven't seen him. If Coach Mike decides to make Achane the primary returner, then I think Mostert should continue to start at running back. And, you know, that'll be good. That'll allow the coaches to be able to answer a lot of questions. If Mike decides to leave Berrios as the primary returner, then I think Achane should be named as our starting running back ASAP. And I think the kid looks ever ready. He looks like he's ready right now, and I'm confident that we'll be more productive with him taking over Mostert's role. Not because Raheem is bad. Raheem has been great, but I just think right now, I think that Achane has proven that he can do what Mostert can do in the role that Mostert is in. Why not let the kid just go ahead and take that over right now? And one of the benefits to rotating Chris Brooks in, which I think we should do as a power runner, is it would answer some questions about how we should look at Raheem and Jeff. You know, if Achane and Brooks ball out, then we can consider trading Raheem and Jeff or releasing them. But if Brooks doesn't produce, then Mike can insert Jeff in. And Jeff, you know, if he plays like the same Jeff before he got hurt, then we can send Brooks to the practice squad. Regardless what we do with our roster, Mike, he's going to be in his bag this week to try to find counters for that quarters coverage and that cover 4 coverage. I'm sure he already has them, but maybe the communication wasn't where it needed to be able to adjust on the fly. And I think there was a lot of breakdowns with Tua and the receivers after the second touchdown. And Tua talked about that in the post-game interview. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I think I'm very proud of our guys for going out there, continuing to fight against a really good team. Division rival. Ever since I came to the league, it's always been tough game. Then you come here and play at their stadium, makes it even tougher with their fans. Their fans are great, and you know how they get into the flow of the game. But off of the 2 drives that we had, I thought that we did really well with our communication in and out the huddle, getting guys where they needed to be and lining up and executing. And then with the other drives, there were a lot of communication errors on my part. And I got to be better with that aspect of the game for our guys, not put our guys into those situations. And then that's really what the game turned out to be. It was really stopping ourselves on first down, guys not knowing where to go because of formational issues with what was communicated in the huddle and things like that. So it's on my part to be better for those guys in the locker room.
Coach Mike gave us an update on left tackle Terron Armstead. He said that he's going to miss some time, but he expects Armstead to come back at some point in the season. He didn't give an update as to when that would be, but he said that he does expect him to play. Like I said last video, I'm down with us just starting Kendall Lamb for the rest of the season. But McDaniel, it looks like he wants to try Teron Armstead again. And McDaniel gave Lamb high praise when they asked his opinion about his performance thus far, which has been good, which is another reason why I have confidence. And I like the question that Travis Wingfield asked Coach about Tua's reading the field and going to his second and third progressions, which sounds like, he's been improving there. But I think versus the Bills, he had to go to his second and third progressions because of that quarters coverage, that palms coverage that I talked about, that they use to break the rhythm of our offense. And McDermott, he was committed to it, and you could tell by listening to Coach that coverage, that quarters cover four palms coverage, quarters coverage, and that cover four palms coverage. You can tell that it did cause us to struggle a bit, and it even affected the play calling of Mike McDaniel. Here's Coach talking about that right now.
Coach, I have a question regarding a stat that I'm not sure how they track this, but they said that 80% through the first 3 weeks, Tua threw to his first read. Yesterday, threw to his first read just 50% of the time. I don't know how they track that, but just want to get your take on Tua's ability to progress through his first read and get to the second, third, fourth read.
I think there's, those games, you can't necessarily control that. There was sometimes, like in this league, offensively or defensively, if you are determined to take something away, they'll find a way. And there was multiple times that he did progress, a couple plays that were in clinic fashion. So those, particularly when you get into a one-sided game where you're behind a little bit and you're passing and getting a little off schedule, on first and second down, that can happen. You end up throwing the ball more, and that you become a little bit more predictable in that way. So we needed him to be able to progress. I think he did real well on some plays. There's a couple that I know, one interception and then the tipped ball that Jalen caught were progression plays that he would like to be better on for various reasons. So I was really happy with how he approached the game, how he executed a vast majority of things that he did. And then, the great thing about Tua is that you can, for me, in our relationship, I can just literally coach him on the things that he's not good at and don't have to worry about it making him worse, because he's going to use it all to make sure he improves moving forward.
Mike, did they do anything yesterday to take Jalen Waddle and Tyreek away from the offense?
Well, yeah, they. I think, like most teams, everybody has a plan for that, and generally, it involves either a complete coverage commitment or a double. And what happens is, that's one of the reasons why they are just as dependent upon the run game is the quarterback, is the offensive line. They're dependent on me to call a good game. And when you get in situations where you're behind and guys can kind of predict pass, they can play softer coverage that takes the ball away from you, outside the numbers with a corner and a safety, and then inside the numbers with sinking backers and such. So that's not something that we hadn't seen. We just hadn't. It's tough when you get into those situations and you're behind several scores to really dictate the terms the way that we like. And I think the Bills did a great job adhering to their game plan, and they didn't take anybody away with one or two individuals. It was a team commitment that when you keep 15-yard plays from being 30-yard plays, and you stop 12-yard runs and make them 3-yard runs, it has a residual effect that they deserve all the credit in the world for.
I went into depth about Palms coverage in the recap video. Y'all make sure and check that out on this channel, and make sure and tune in and tap in, subscribe to the channel, make sure and click the notification bell so you can hear it first. In this coverage, the corners and the safeties, like I said, they got different alerts to dictate how they're going to play against Mike's formations. The corners alerts, again, are squeeze number 1, which is it could either be Tyreek Hill or Waddle. I believe in that game it was Waddle. Squeeze number 1 until number 2 crosses your vertical. Don't chase, just zone your quarter of the field, quarters coverage. If both wide receivers disappear, then you can squeeze if number 2 is running to the post or the seam. Watch the quarterback through 3 steps before snapping your eyes back to number 1, and make sure and flip your hips and skate. The alerts for the safeties was play 12 to 15 yards off the ball on top of the number 2 receiver. If the number 2 is vertical, lock on number 2. If number 2 is out, get eyes on number 1. And if number 2 drags, eyes go to the quarterback and find work. And they want the will linebacker, which I believe was Matt Milano or Terrell Bernard, one of them, to wall off number 2, look to number 1, and expand for the number 3 pickup. Now, them expanding for the number 3 pickup is where we could have possibly had an advantage on them. And teams typically like to run cover 4 or some pattern match coverage against spread passing concepts. And I know sometimes you see us in tight formations, but I think when McDaniel motions some of our wide receivers out, we can create a spread type of look or some type of advantage that way. And so they're trying to counter that. And, you know, I think that there's 5 concepts that we can use to counter their counter to us. There's 5 passing concepts that we can use that can, you know, we can get money against cover 4 coverage with 2 high safety defenses all together. And these concepts are true progression concepts that's going to put horizontal and vertical stress on the defense, on multiple defenders in coverage. And here are those 5 concepts. Number 1 is the post dig shallow, which they call the Mills route, the Mills combination. The dagger concept off of the post dig shallow. And the concept of that is when they do that dig route is supposed to be a zone beater. Also, the drive concept off of the post shallow dig, and the double post wheel and the double post cross. Now, I like the 2 double post crosses because of the 2 posts that open up space for the deep the deep crosser working on the other side of the field. Essentially, you got 2 posts that are cutting the top off of the cover 4 defense for the deep crosser to come open as the safety in the corner are occupied with that post. So you got the 2 double posts here, and then you got another post, and then you got that cross that they got to worry about as well. And it'll make it a long way to travel for the slot wide receiver working a deep cross. So it's best to have your fastest wide receiver, whether he plays the slot or you in motion, have him, you know, to that position pre-snap. With the post wheel specifically, Mike will be putting 4 routes to one side of the field, neutralizing the defense's man advantage, distributing 4 routes against 4 defenders, basically safety, corner, O-linebacker, and inside linebacker. On top of that, we're putting 3 vertical routes to one side of the field where there's only 2 defenders responsible for vertical space. Think of it like a 3-on-2 fast break in basketball where, you know, the defender don't really know which one to choose. He kind of got to pick his poison. You know, I think that'll be a good option against that. If the wheel outside linebacker carries the number 3 vertical on the wheel and quarters, that would be a money matchup for Mike. He would love that because when it comes to Waddle or Hill, if they're slot running vertical with a linebacker, that'll be a mismatch. If the outside linebacker happens to try to take away the wheel route, then the running back in the flat will come open, as you see here in the diagram. And that's going to come open nicely. The inside linebacker is going to have to push hard to become the new flat defender, and it'll put them in a bind. And I think Mike would gladly take that all day long, twice on Sundays. And I'm confident that he and Frank Smith and Darrell Bevell will have something up their sleeve. Now, I think we can definitely run against quarters coverage as well, but I think that we need to get better running out of wide single back formations, both from under center and from shotgun. Our pass plays are good, but we rarely run the ball out of wide where we got receivers out on the boundary. We don't really run running plays out of that a lot. We run a lot of our running plays out of the tight sets, and we're good with that. We're good with the RPO tight pistol. All the tight sets, we're good at passing and running, but we got to get better with the wide sets. If we do that in those groupings, it's going to make us virtually unstoppable. And that's what makes the Bills offense so difficult to stop as well, is because they run everything out of shotgun and they so good at it, you're always going to be in a bind. You're always going to be in a bind. It don't matter what running back they get. Hopefully, we got to hope James Cook don't catch on to this offense fast enough, because once he gets it down pat, it's going to be problems, man. Jeez, it's going to be problems. And yes, Josh Allen, he's turned the ball over in some games, but he's mostly a responsible quarterback. I mean, and that's the operative word, responsible. He's like that hard-headed teenager that thinks he knows it all, thinks he's a man already, and he can do what men do at 17 years old. So he might drink a beer here. He might maybe try to take a sip of the beer that you got in the refrigerator, but he's not fully grown yet. So he's gonna make those mistakes here and there, but you can count on him to get the yard work done. You can count on him to have the leaves raked up. His room is going to be clean. If you was to get him the keys to the whip and send him out to get you a couple drills or some wrenches and some lawn fertilizer, he's not going to be caught in a honeycomb hideout getting high. He's not going to be at the booby trap. He's not going to be at Tootsie's on the low. No, you're going to give him the keys. He's going to go to Home Depot, get what you told him to get, and he's going to come right back. And that's how Josh Allen is. Tua's showing that he's that way also. He's responsible. And basically what being responsible as a quarterback means is your coach, he can count on you every week to make plays even through adversity. Right now, in my opinion, Tua leads the MVP race still, but after this loss, everybody's using hella hyperbole, and they're now saying that Tua's behind a few players. Here's what Stephen A. Shannon and Dan Orlovsky had to say about the MVP race.
As Josh Allen throws 4 TDs as the Bills rout the Fins 48-20, handing Miami its first loss of the season. Allen has just 1 turnover during Buffalo's 3-game win streak compared to 4 in the Week 1 loss. For his career, the Bills quarterback has won nearly 80% of his starts when he turns the ball over 1 or 0 times. Dan, we had a heated debate last week.
Yeah.
Stephen A., Kimberly A. Martin, myself, you, talking Tua, talking Josh Allen.
Kimberly gonna be on Thursday?
Yeah. Kimberly's here Wednesdays and Thursdays, so if you need to come in early. Is Josh Allen the MVP right now?
Yeah, after yesterday, yes, because he went head-to-head with Tua and completely outperformed him. When Josh Allen plays the way he did yesterday, he's as good as anyone we have in the NFL. And if we're being honest, in the last 3 weeks, he's the best player in football. He's the best player in football. What you saw was that towing the line of aggression and recklessness. Aggression and recklessness. And I'll even take it a step further. I think it's the best game that he and Ken Dorsey, his offensive coordinator, has had since Brian Daboll left. And that's been a huge conversation piece. The way that they were ready for the pressure from Vic Fangio, phenomenal. The way that Josh got an empty and they motioned, phenomenal. The play action pass, this quarterback has become the best play action pass quarterback in the NFL. Let me give you guys a couple numbers. So yesterday, when they went under center and ran play action, this is outrageous to me. Shannon will appreciate this. He's 9 for 11 yesterday with 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's unbelievable performance. In the last 3 weeks, he's 72 of 94. That is at 77% with 6 misses. When I say misses, like I watch the tape and I go, Josh misses that throw. He's got 6 in the last touchdowns. The dude has more touchdowns than he does have misses in the last 3 weeks. When they play like that, when he plays like that, he's as good as we have in the NFL. After 1 month, Josh Allen is our MVP.
I can't knock you for that today. He was absolutely sensational yesterday. They were collectively. They just bum rushed Miami, exposed them, and let you know there's levels to this. And Miami's got something to prove in that regard, particularly defensively. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to look at a guy like Bo Interception. San Francisco's undefeated.
Yes, sir.
And I'll give you an argument on his behalf thus far. I'll also look at Lamar Jackson, who's completed 73% of his passes. He's only thrown 1 interception on this season, and you see the way that they've been playing. I would throw those two in the mix as well, but I understand where you're coming from in light of Josh Allen. I'm not in a position to make a profound argument against him because we had Tua up here, and then he got so thoroughly outplayed by Josh Allen on the field yesterday afternoon. So that's where I'm at with it. Go ahead, Shannon.
But let me ask both of you guys this. Did Tua look as bad yesterday as Josh Allen looked in week 1 against the Jets?
No.
So therefore, how does he catapult Tua? Because Tua has 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,300 yards. He's averaging almost 10 yards per attempt. Now, I do think Josh Allen is in the conversation, but can I add another guy that's a non-quarterback to the conversation?
Yes, sir.
What about Christian McCaffrey?
No problem.
Absolutely.
No problem with that one.
He's running and catching the air out of the football, everything that he does. They've lost 1 regular season game since he's joined that team. 1 regular season game. And he just broke Jerry Rice's consecutive touchdown streak, a game with at least 1 touchdown. He's the 3rd player in NFL history with 600 scrimmage yards, 7 scrimmage touchdowns through 4 games. Now look, the last non-quarterback to win the MVP was Adrian Peterson in 2012. And we know what AP did that season, 2,097 yards. He single-handedly put the Minnesota Vikings on his back and carried them to the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying that Christian McCaffrey has that kind of workload, because I do believe Brock Purdy is better than Christian Ponder. But I also believe the weapons that he have outside is better than what they possessed in Minnesota with Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle, and so forth and so on. But for me right now, at the quarter poll, if we had to vote, I would vote for Tua. Because I think Tua, yesterday notwithstanding, and I know a lot of times, the last thing that we see is because it's the most recent, we forget about that performance that he had up until that. But for me, I would go Tua, probably Christian McCaffrey, then Josh Allen.
I disagree with Dan that Josh has been the best player through 3 weeks. I mean, in my opinion, that's been Tua through 3 weeks. I mean, Josh put up 48. Tua put up 70. So, he's passed for more yards in the league so far. Josh is also not the best play-action passer in the league. That would also go to Tua. If you're just talking about numbers, then I hear your case. I hear your case that, maybe he is the best as far as numbers. But when it comes to creating deception, and I think Uno he's been the best at that as far as creating deception. He's done that not just out of shotgun. He's also created deception out of the pistol from under center. To me, teams are just not keying up on the play-action tendencies of the Bills. Like I told y'all, they're not keying up on them, mostly running play-action from under center. But that can catch up with them. Overall, nobody's doing deception at the line of scrimmage, either through shotgun or, from under center, using their eyes to manipulate players like Uno. And you even said it yourself, Dan. I mean, and I get it. You got to do your job, so you can't just talk about how great Tua is every single week. So that's what Dan is doing. And to Stephen A's point, I don't think Josh thoroughly outplayed Tua in this game. I mean, he just went up against a weaker defense than Tua, and that was, our defense was predictable. Tua put up over 250 yards and a touchdown. Yes, Allen had 4 touchdowns, but he had help from his running game. And I'm glad Shannon grounded the both of those guys talking about Tua's numbers. Shannon brought up Tua's yards per completion numbers. That could also be that his yards per completion could help him make a case for being the best quarterback also. I think Dan is just being a prisoner of the moment. Tua's still the current MVP. I mean, come on, man. Let's be real. On Speak for yourself. Acho, Joy, James, and Shady gave their thoughts about Tua versus Josh in this division, and here's what they had to say.
I got to be honest, Joy. Josh Allen, he didn't show me anything, but he reminded me of a lot. He reminded me of just how good he is when he's locked in. I always question, man, does Josh Allen play down to his competition? It don't matter, because if you good, he bringing his A game. Josh Allen, 4 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. He has done that 7 times in his career now. 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's college numbers. It's like he playing a game on rookie versus little brother. I was offended because I was like, yo, the Dolphins were coming off of one of the greatest wins we have ever seen. And then the Bills just beat the Dolphins in one of the worst ways you could imagine. 28 points. Last week, the Dolphins pulled out their starters. This week, the Bills pulled out theirs. God, dog.
Well.
NFL has a way of humbling you. Quick. And the Bills humbled the Dolphins in the worst way.
Quick and fast.
I mean, Josh Allen, when he's locked in, I don't think there's anybody better. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is just as good, but Josh Allen, what he was doing throwing, what he was doing running, he said, hey, Dolphins, y'all sit down somewhere. Hey, that's cool, Acho. I know you like the Dolphins. Go ahead, you can sit down somewhere with them right there, too. So that's what I learned. But, Joy, what did Josh Allen prove to you?
I think he proved he and Stephon Diggs are absolutely fine. We can put that off-season narrative to rest. They're good. They're friends. They can still play well together. Still put up points. Stephon Diggs had himself a day.
Did he?
6 for 120, 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns. Perfect passer rating, 21 for 25.
And they sat out.
Ridiculous. But he didn't prove anything. We know that Josh Allen is great. You remember at the beginning of the season, Shady, when I was like, we're getting a little uncomfortable on the Bills bandwagon. Everyone's kind of ready to jump off. Remember that? I know Bills fans are mad at me today because I picked the Dolphins to win, but I said that. We're bailing a little early. The Bills still got it like that. Everybody just calm down. We're just getting a little Bills fatigue. We pick them to win every year, they disappoint us. So now there's got to be something wrong with the Bills. What's wrong with the Bills? No, they look fine. And on both sides of the ball. And that's a good team in the Dolphins. Right. They got some real issues on the defensive side of the ball that may end up being the thing that keeps them from being real contenders this year. We'll talk about that later. But the Bills with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are an elite team that are capable of beating other elite teams, and they are absolutely still contenders, which I know the season started off rough for the Bills and Josh Allen, but he shouldn't need to prove this week in and week out.
Do you pick the Dolphins?
Of course I picked the Dolphins.
You picked the Dolphins? No question, Coach. You picked the Bills? I rock with the Bills. Okay, you picked the Bills. I picked the Dolphins, right? So everybody did. But me. This was a beatdown. But I'm not surprised at this at all. This is who Josh Allen is. Josh Allen, when he is locked in, right? Because when he's not locked in, he shows us a different Josh Allen. But when he is locked in, this is who Josh Allen is. I'm not surprised. We have Josh Allen in the MVP conversation every single year for a reason, because we've seen games like this, right? But we've also seen games the other way, like week 1. You know what I'm saying? But either way, I'm not surprised if I see week 1 Josh in the game, and I'm not surprised if I see week 4 Josh. That is who Josh is. I need to see Josh be more locked in, especially when he's playing the Tuas, when he's playing the Mahomes, when he's playing the big-time competition, the Joe Burrows that he's been losing to. When he's playing those guys, I need to see him locked in. This Josh Allen should not surprise anybody up here. Josh has been special in this league when he wants to be special and he's locked in. Josh has had some really bad games, but when he's locked in, I agree with you. He's one of the best quarterbacks out there when he is dialed in and locked in, especially what he can do with his arms and his legs.
I like that from you. I like it's true. I like when you speak like that about Josh. I like that. That's what I like about him, right? Because, and I hate to even do this, but no, I mean, I like you being honest, because he usually shades Josh Allen. But today, for some reason, he's giving credit. Anyway, what did he prove to me? Nothing. When he threw 4 picks, I still say he's still one of the best quarterbacks in this league, top 3.
But that didn't surprise you neither, though.
Listen. They asked me about the kid, and I said, he's the same dude, right? He had a bad game. He presses sometimes. And if you watch him now, I think the difference is he's a little conscious of it, right? You could tell when things kind of break down, right? He's either going to run it or I'm going to check it down. I'm not really forcing it. And he's playing within the system. If you remember a couple years back when Patrick Mahomes played the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, he lost that game because he was pressing, trying to do too much. First half was lighting him up, trying to do the same thing in the second half instead of taking the gimmies. That's what Josh Allen is doing. And another thing they're doing, they're running the football. They're making it more balanced. It's a lot easier when you have help, right? When you got to go out there and score, pass, and run, it makes it difficult. But when you have some help, when you carrying a 70% of the offense and another 30% to running the ball, that's a recipe of winning. But he's telling me that he's the AFC champ. That's what it is. That's what he really taught me.
AFC or AFC East?
AFC East.
Okay.
Like, this is still mine.
Yep.
Tua's playing good.
Sure.
He's my young bull.
Yep.
And where I'm from, when you a young bull, you gotta wait your time up. Because all week,
that hurt my heart.
All week, y'all said, man, Tua's this, Tua's that. And the Dolphins, y'all picked them all to win. Y'all picked the Dolphins to win, right?
I like what you're saying.
I picked the Bills to win because I know what Josh Allen is.
Good pick.
I hate to say it, but I agree with Shady. I mean, even though I think Tua's still the MVP, I will also say that, you know, Tua is still the young boy, like how them Philly guys be saying. He is still the young boy in this division until he beats Buffalo and Kansas City. He the jit of the division. That's what he is right now. But you know, you got to beat to beat a man. You got to beat the man. He has to. We got to beat them some way somehow. Last but not least, Kyle Hurd. He did his Hurd hierarchy, where, you know, he's placed the Fins at a certain ranking in the hierarchy. I want to know what y'all think about it. I don't agree with it. I'm not mad at it, but I don't agree with it. But here's where he put the Dolphins in his Hurd hierarchy.
From behind quarterback, and we have to acknowledge that Puka Nacua is the rookie of the year if C.J. Stroud doesn't win it. This kid's unguardable. It's incredible. And I said in the offseason, they're old in spots, but offensively, they got dudes. They've remade the offensive line, moved guys around. The Rams have the coach and the quarterback. Aaron Donald remains dominant. He's the second highest graded defensive lineman on PFF. Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp comes back. They've done all this without Cooper Kupp. I have him at 10.
Number 9.
Detroit Lions. Listen, last 14 games, they've won 11. We got to acknowledge they're pretty good. Their defense, which we have criticized, it's now number 4. They have a real pass rush. 12 sacks last 2 games. I've always thought Jared Goff against the spread is money. He's underrated. They have drafted and developed well. They have been patient. I like what I see. Detroit at number 9.
Number 8.
The Seahawks. They don't give the ball up. 1 giveaway all season. They lead the NFL in sack differential. 16 sacks. So they're getting after the quarterback. They don't give the ball up. They've empowered their run game. They drafted what appears to be a star corner. Charbonnet, Charles Cross, Kenneth Walker, Witherspoon, Woolen. They've hit back-to-back draft home runs. They've got a Hall of Fame level coach. They're playing well. Take week 1 out for the Rams. Beat Detroit in Detroit. I don't know. They're winning road games. Traveling across the country, I have Seattle at 8.
Number 7.
Lamar Jackson's good. Can we stop? Second in completion percentage in the league, and you view him as a running quarterback. They lead the NFL in red zone touchdowns. A lot of teams struggle in the red zone, even good teams. Not Baltimore because of Lamar. This kid overcomes more than anybody. Sometimes his own injuries, sometimes receiver injuries, O-line injuries. Now they faced a backup quarterback. That helps. But I love their culture. I love Lamar. Baltimore at 7.
Number 6.
The Cowboys. All their wins are by 20-plus points. They lead the NFL in turnover differential. They speed the game up. Now, that may not matter for the Niners, but that's what they do. Opposing quarterbacks, passer rating against the Cowboys this year, 55. That's it. Lead the NFL in third down percentage. Opposing quarterbacks have struggled with or without Trayvon Diggs. Their defensive front has playmakers. Cowboys at 6.
Number 5.
Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts has won 21 of his last 22 games. I don't even think they're playing that well. They have the best O-line, D-line combination in the league. 4-0 for the second straight year. They were 8-0 to start last year. And listen, one of the things about Jalen Hurts that I like, there's no dink and dunk here. They have 7 completions and 4 touchdown passes of 25-plus yards. If you start crowding the box with them, they will burn you over the top. So they're not playing well, and they're 4-0. How many teams in football could say that?
Number 4.
Miami. Number 1 scoring offense. Better for a track meet than an alley fight. Their weakness is this isn't a very good defense, and it's not a very good offensive line. What it is a very, very accurate quarterback, the fastest team in the league at wide receiver, a brilliant head coach, maybe ahead of the league in their motion offense, but in the end, this is a team built for high-scoring affairs. New England and Buffalo's defense gave them problems. Miami at 4.
Number 3.
So Kansas City could use their receivers, but has a significantly better defense than Miami and a much better offensive line. Patrick Mahomes, least sacked quarterback in the NFL this season, only been hit twice. Now, some of that's he runs around. But I love their defense. They've held opponents to 21 or fewer points in all 4 games. Their issue, and I think it's a real issue, they may have to address at the trade deadline. Outside of Kelsey, they just don't get enough separation. They, even with Mahomes, look at what they're scoring. They need a big play receiver. I'm not talking Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. It is an issue, and I'm not sure it's solvable with their wide receiving personnel.
Number 2.
I know everybody falls in love with Buffalo when they start rolling down teams, but they have done something that I like. They are far less dependent on the big play. They're running the ball better. Josh Allen's running less. Josh Allen's completion percentage is 75%. So what they always had is the ability to be Superman and fly above the clouds. But they didn't do the little things right. They were bad at details, where Cincinnati and Kansas City were great at those. Now they can run the ball without Josh. Now their completion percentage is 75%. They have buttoned up a lot of the issues we've had with them. Now maybe, October, November comes around, but they're not just home run Buffalo. They've gotten better at small ball and little things, and it's noticeable.
Number 1.
I mean, what do you want me to say with San Francisco? I mean, everybody loves the Cowboys, and they're a favorite, all right, over a field goal. Highest graded defense, Hall of Famers everywhere, 14 straight regular season wins. Purdy doesn't make any mistakes. Christian McCaffrey should be in the running for MVP. I think San Francisco, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Miami kind of feel different. Throw in Philadelphia, feel a little different than everybody else in the league. I do think it's impressive that Philadelphia hasn't played well and is 4-0, but that is my herd hierarchy.
Number four, I mean, I got us at number 2 right behind Buffalo, who I have ahead of us only because they beat us. We're better than the Chiefs. We're better than Kansas City, in my opinion, because they almost lost to the Jags and they almost lost to the Jets. Their only convincing win was against the Bears, who are the worst in the league, if not the worst. I know a lot of people was expecting the Texans to be the worst team in the league, that they was going to wear that title, but shit. CJ Stroud, he been out there balling, throwing dots to Tank Dell and Nico Collins. So the Bears, they're the worst team right now, and that's really the only convincing win the Chiefs got. Everybody got the Niners as the number 1 team, but they ain't played nobody. Who have they played, really? I want to see how they handle Buffalo. And shit, I'll be glad to watch that game because it'll tell us a lot about what we can do, because I want to see how Kyle Shanahan counters some of that shit Sean McDermott is doing. Our worst opponent was Denver, but even they look like they may be figuring things out and gaining confidence after coming back on Chicago. I got the Lions ahead of Seattle because Seattle lost to the Rams, which is a divisional opponent. The Lions beat the Packers, which is their divisional opponent. And I get it that Seattle beat the Lions, but they won by less than 7 points. So I still think Detroit is a little bit stronger. But y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. Be on the lookout for upcoming shorts videos. I'll be giving y'all some team news. I'll also tell y'all what we rank in the power rankings. And you might see an episode of Numbers Lie, Numbers Don't as well on this channel. Y'all stay tapped in. Like I said, subscribe. I definitely appreciate the support. Shout out to all the people that still subscribe to the channel already. I'm going to keep trying to bring y'all the best content I possibly can. Much love to y'all. Till next time, signing off.